Hey everybody, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. Well, I just wanted to do a show and tell, and I've been doing a lot of that, but I wanted to show the casting with the bores so far. Real pleased. I don't know how well you'll be able to see the 1-inch bores, but they came out real good, real clean, and you might be able to see in here, I actually have the brass cotter. It's I crazy glued that in before I did the machining, and the surface it probably isn't going to show up, but it's just right. I mean, it's spot on. I'm really happy about how that came out. So and this is the idea that I got from Metal.Duncan amps, and he had used JB Weld to basically fuse the two halves together for the boring. He did his in a lathe, in a Myford lathe like this, and it worked out well for him. You can see I've used way more JB Weld than I needed. And so the next thing, and I don't know if you can see it here, but I actually drilled and tapped the 440 holes for the right hand side. This is the little cover that will hold the spring in here. So in a minute I'm going to try to separate these things. I know Duncan metal amps used, I think he said he had a kiln that he put these in. So I don't have a kiln, and I really don't want to heat the whole thing up with propane. I could and may have to. I thought what I would do is try to use some physics first. I've got a little straight bladed screwdriver bit and then a C-clamp. I'm going to try to use this basically just to, obviously I haven't tried this before. I have no earthly idea if this is going to work or not, and it's a little cumbersome. I'm setting up, it's on top of my surface plate. Let me put a little chunk of wood on there too, give myself a little more clearance, maybe make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. But try to crank the C-clamp over and use the pressure of the C-clamp to separate the two halves. I thought I would try this. It's probably like the gentlest and least violent method that I could try at first. And if that doesn't work, then I could try heating it up. I could try heating it up with an electric heat gun. That might be useful. And if that doesn't work, then what I could try is the propane, or I do have a 6-ton press, but let's see if the screw thing will work. This should be pretty interesting. Certainly has my curiosity. Wish I had an extra set of hands to hold the screwdriver bit in place while I try to torque this down. This would be pretty entertaining. Alright, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the video off right now. I had an idea of getting some painter's tape and tape the screwdriver bit in place, and then at least that'll be like an extra set of hands. Or that kind of work. Let me just try it. Let me cut the video off. I'll see if I can get it started and bring you back. Carefully try to use the pressure of the C-clamp to see if I can separate the two halves. The center part, the other consideration is that the center part is not a critical piece of the mechanism. That's why I was thinking I could use that too. It's not working. Alright, I think part of the problem is there's not a real good base thing for the C-clamp to catch on. That's why I've got this little piece of metal there. Let me try it with that. You guys said you wanted less show and tell and more actual. This isn't really machining, but definitely, there we go. Come on, thing. Dang it. Alright, I'm not gonna belabor this. I'm gonna keep trying a few more attempts, and if it works, great. If not, I'll keep fiddling with it and bring you back once I've got the two halves separated. I see. Okay. It's wanting to. The center is apparently where that thing. Yes, there we go. Alright. I'll have to edit this tape down some, but I don't know how long we got, 6 minutes? Maybe I'll let the whole thing go, but look at that. That worked great. Non-destructive. That's what exactly what I was shooting for, guys. The magnet held the little screwdriver blade in place, and I had to hold the C-clamp in place, but it worked out great. I mean, now all I have to do is scrape the JB Weld off, the two halves. That shouldn't be too hard. And then I can chalk this side up, lay it down flat, and drill the 3 holes in here. So I'll bring you back for that process after I've got it all scraped off, but yay, pretty happy about that. Sorry. Hey folks, in keeping with the new thing I'm trying to do, instead of just show and tell, I thought I'll show a little bit of actual machining. But this is an interesting case. Couple things. I'm drilling and tapping the 6/32 holes for the micrometer side on the left-hand side of the Quorn. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe not. I'll try to take some close-up pictures, but right here you'll see this was the initial hole, and I actually broke the center drill. Very aggravating. It's kind of a weak metal that it broke, and it broke inside the cast iron there. So instead of fiddling and trying to get the end of it out, what I've decided to do, I just entered a different program in the DRO. You can't see that, but I set, so instead of a 0 degree start angle, I set 30 degrees. So the actual first hole that I ended up drilling and tapping is right here. Using a little scribe pointer again. And then I just finished doing the second one, and I'll go ahead and do the third one now. So, but the key difference is, in case you have, I have a Grizzly DRO, and probably most of them are like this, but they do the pitch circle diameter, and you can do an offset, which is pretty awesome because I ended up using that for the locomotive. I actually offset a number of degrees so I wouldn't put a bolt hole through the steam passages, but for something like this, it's really not rocket science. The other thing you might be able to see right here is a Sharpie marker. So I do that before I drill, just to make sure I go to all 3 of the points. I put a Sharpie marker in the drill chuck, and I move the Z a little bit, and I move to all 3 of the spots, and I make a mark where the hole's going to be. do that on purpose because it's an extra reassurance that um, that I'm not going to have a problem and I don't put them in the wrong place. So this is going to look great. I'm really excited about it. So I'll go ahead and shut up and continue to drill and tap. Center drill. Just putting a little peck. You just want to put a hole in there so the actual drill can start. And for the tap drill for the 7/64, or for the 632, it's 7/64. So I've got one right here. I need to give myself a little extra Z space. I think I do. Alright. Carefully rotate the drill while I'm tightening up the jaws to make sure I get it square. With a tiny drill and a big drill chuck like that, it's just a good idea. Put a little lubricant on there. Set it down. I'm going to zero out my DRO. My quill DRO, the stupid thing doesn't go to zero very easily. I have to press it. Sometimes it'll do the first time, it's just a button. It's been like this for years. Dang it. That's aggravating. There we go. Alright. And the holes are only supposed to be a 1/4 inch deep. But since they're blind holes, what I've been doing is drilling them a 1/2 inch deep. As you can see, I'm only doing about 50 or 60 thou at a time. Now brush away. There's lubricant on the brush. And even though you technically don't need lubricant for cast iron, I don't think it can hurt anything. I'm down about a 300 thou now. What I do, like I'll go ahead and go down to a 1/2 inch. It's not going to hurt anything, and it gives the tap extra room at the bottom, even though I'm using bottoming taps. This can't hurt. Alright, there we go. It's a 1/2 inch. I think a lot of people do this technique that I'm about to do. I'll loosen up the tap drill. I'll take the tap. I'm going to get all the little. Put the tap in the chuck. And what's nice about Bridgeport, and I guess a lot of other vertical mills, have a feature that you can set the transmission in neutral, basically. Probably saying that wrong, but that's what I'm doing. Okay, it's in neutral now. Let me show you something else. There's a big bottle of it here. Product, and they don't pay me to do this. I bought these things. So, product called Tap Paste. It's made in Oklahoma, and it's a very thick pink tapping paste. You know, like I said, technically speaking, you don't really need lubricant on cast iron, but I don't really think it hurts. But you get an idea how thick it is. I don't know what it's made out of, but it doesn't have a petroleum smell. I think it might be made out of shortening or something like that. Who knows? But it works great. I've used it on cast iron, steel, aluminum. So I'm going to set my zero again. There we go. Good time that time. And so since the transmission's in neutral for the head, I can just rotate the tap manually with the chuck, the drill chuck, and light pressure with the quill just to ease it down. Back it off, ease it down. tapped to a depth of about 350 thou, even though the hole, the blind hole, was a ½ inch. So that's my tip for tapping. And also for recovering your alignment if you goof up and break something, break a center drill, tap. Beautiful thing is you can always do an offset. Okay, hey, it's still Saturday night. I'm about to pack it in for the night. One thing, I'll just cover some workshop practices and all. I won't show you this, but this little 7/64 inch tap drill is dull, so I need to sharpen it before I put everything away. And also, I want to show one more thing. This, since a lot of people thought it was, somebody even said it was genius. I don't think it's genius, but again, I copied this idea from Tom Blau, and if anybody knows him, please tell him I said thank you. Let me show you this. This is the idea that Tom Blau had about using a ball bearing to press in, and he had taken a piece of flat steel and I guess crazy glued or soldered the ball bearing into it. But what I did, I just took an ordinary nut and I used some crazy glue, and I crazy glued the ball bearing into the nut, and then I figured out right where the right spot is. You could do this with a magnet too, but you know, I love crazy glue, so I used that. And when I knew that I wasn't done working on the casting, so even after I put my my 1, 2, 3 blocks away, I left that one on, left that crazy glued on there, and it came in handy because I needed to use it again tonight. So that's that. Here is the side that this had the JB Weld on it that was glued to the other half. I just scraped it off. I used a razor knife, like a safety razor, and let me show you right here. Nothing to it. One of these little, it's a safety razor blade, has the reinforced edge. I just scraped everything off, and after I scraped all the glue off that I could see, I ran over all the edges with a file to make sure that there was no sharp edges, no pieces of glue sticking up. So now I'm pretty stoked. I need to I could start working on the micrometer parts of it. Oh yeah, the next thing, I'll get ready. I guess I'll do it tomorrow because it's kind of late tonight, but I'll need to tip this up vertically and bore this out. So one thing I could do tonight, I could center the hole, and bore this thing out tomorrow for 1.25 inches. So I'll bring you back for that. Howdy folks, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52. I think I'll make this the last segment for the weekend. Excuse me. Since I think the last one, well, can't remember exactly where I left off, but here is the Quorn base. I'm really happy and excited. I've got the three, these are 632 holes here, drilled and tapped for the spring that will, the micrometer head that will go there. The back bores, of course, are done, and I just finished, just a few minutes ago, machining out the column. I used some of the techniques that one of the readers, Turning Point, thank you so much for your thoughtful email. Listen, I love stuff like that. I'm a hobby machinist, like most of you probably are. So if I'm doing something and you've seen a technique that you think would be helpful for me, man, please let me know, because I used, let me show you the setup. Well, I've got one of these Noga dial indicator holders, and I used that for setting the offset. Not on this one. I used the 3/4 inch boring bar for boring out the center section. I had to, because that's so long, so deep rather, for the vertical column there. But what I just used, I put the 1/2 inch one on, and I have this custom made tool. Let me give you a little close up of it. I use this thing. This is basically a carbide tipped grinding tool or boring tool. that I ground off. As you can see, I ground like a 45-degree angle there, and I used it for the pillar tool to give a nice radius at the upper arm parts. You can perhaps see it on that too. So everywhere where you needed a nice blend, so I just finished just moments ago, used it on this, and what's nice about that is it gives me a nice uniform ring shape, and I'll be able to fill in, like when I do the paint and body work on the base here, like I did on the pillar tool. You know, I can kind of blend in. As far as that goes, I don't think I'm going to do that just yet because there's still some assembly required. There's a ton of stuff obviously to make for the front bar, but the bases, I think the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and machine the covers, then the micrometer assembly that goes over here, and the spring retainer that goes over there. I'll be working on those, get those things to fit at least before I do the paint and body work on the Quorn. And as you can tell, I mean, obviously this thing is longer than the standard. There's a picture of the standard one. As you may recall, I made mine like 3 inches wider. Actually ended up making the column like an inch taller. I just figured it couldn't hurt to have the extra capacity. So anyway, very excited about that, and very happy to wrap up a lot of the cast iron boring for the weekend. There's still a ton of cast iron machining to come. You know, cast iron and cast bronze, the parts for the actual tool head, for the wheel head assembly. So lots to come on this project, but I'm going to call it a wrap, and I appreciate everybody, and you all take care and keep the comments coming. Please share the information about the channel. Please, you know, hit the like button and let me know if you don't feel like making a comment. Just hit like and I'll know you're out there. Can't tell who you are, of course, but if you you know, if you want to pass the word on subscribing to your friends, I'd sure appreciate that too. Trying to grow the channel. Hope this is helpful to you. Take care.